Hi, folks. This is the Fighting Nerd and his co-host, Jolly Roger. What I want to do tonight is talk a little bit about fighting stances, particularly how you stand when fighting with a knife fighting stances. I've had conversations with people before. Just had a conversation with somebody a few days ago who's into the martial arts but hasn't done a whole lot with edged weapons. And we were talking about the pros and cons of different fighting stances. And my answer to that was what I'm going to give you today. But of course, preface here, I'm not an expert. This is not intended as any kind of instructional video by any means. I'm just a fat slob, almost 50-year-old guy that's been interested in this. Has had a little bit of formal training, but not a whole lot. What I know is what I kind of batched together, so don't take this as gospel. This is just something for people who share that kind of an interest in personal protection and martial arts to think about, and that's all it's meant to be. I'm not trying to teach anybody anything. But I think that this is valuable insight for what it is. I don't think that I am the first one to come up with this. It's not an original thought. But for people maybe new to knives or even new to martial arts, food for thought. Okay, now, everybody sees like the Chinese kung fu movies where all the crane stance and all this other. But really, useful fighting stances are pretty basic. The T stance, arms up here, you can't see my feet, but feet about shoulder width apart, feet at 45-degree angles, all this other stuff, knees slightly bent. And if you have a chance to get into that kind of a stance, or a true boxing stance, which is very similar, get into the kind of those dedicated stances, the Jeet Kune Do stance with the strong side forward, southpaw boxing stance. If you have a chance to get into one of those kind of stances, great. If you can start a fight from that, great. They've been working for thousands of years, and they'll probably continue to work very well for you. They all have their pros and cons. But it's unlikely that you're going to be in one of those stances at the start of an actual real-life violent encounter. And it's the same thing when it comes to knives or any other weapon. Now, there are different stances that people like with knives. There's a dueling stance where your strong side's forward and you're holding it a lot like you would a saber or a rapier with the knife in front. And the idea is that opponents have to come around your tip before they can get to you, and you can maneuver and use this hand for deflections and defense. Makes some sense. The drawback is that your hand's out here, and if the guy's quicker than you thought, he can slash the hand, he can slash the fingers. If he's a martial artist that's in one of the kick-prone martial arts, Taekwondo, Hapkido, Tang Sudo, he might decide to try and kick the knife out of your hand, and it's out here where the forearm is very exposed. So, bam, you can get disarmed that way. The alternative is what I call a combat crouch, right, where the knife is by your body. Your non-weapon hand or your live hand is forward, and you're making defensive maneuvers and striking to open up for the knife. And kind of a middle ground between those two stances is where you're standing with the knife in front but closer to your body, so it's not so easy to slash the hand or get disarmed, and you still have this hand. But the thing of it is, in the real world, you're probably not going to be standing in one of those stances when trouble starts. You're going to be standing, I have to be standing. Because consider this. You're not likely, as someone that's involved in personal protection, especially if you're a martial artist, who's had the discipline to go through martial arts training, you are not likely to go out and start a fight. Most people don't go out looking for fights. Most people get into fights in very unexpected ways. A common scenario, you have a fender bender in a grocery store parking lot. You guys half drunk, or he's had a bad day. Things get verbal. He gets mad. You get mad. You wind up 2 inches from people. 2 inches from their face. You wind up 2 inches from the guy's face. You're mad. You're arguing, but you're not thinking about punching the guy. But he decides to punch you. How are you standing? You're mad. You're in his face. You're doing your best drill instructor. Your hands are down here. You're right. All of a sudden, bam, uppercut to the chin or a hook to the side of the head. The fight's on. How are you standing? You were standing squared off to him. Right? So you're easy to push off balance. And you start that fight from a bad tactical situation. And that can happen to anybody. And yes, there are ways to mitigate. First of all, don't get mad yourself. If he gets in your face, take a couple of steps back. Right? Or if just someone approaches you that you don't know, you don't like the looks of them, asking directions, everything, you think it might be a setup for a robbery. Right? Instead of standing squared off to them, take a step back. Get your foot behind you and your weight distributed even so you have some balance, and talk with your hands. What can I do for you, son? Great. First street is over there. Your hands are up here, so they can do you some good. But even at that, even if you do that, you're not in your fighting stance. You're in just a better stance than you would be if you were standing normally squared up with the guy. So, and when a knife fight starts, if it escalates to weapons, you're probably not going to be the one to do that. Let's continue with that scenario. He punches you a couple of times, and you weather it. Maybe he doesn't really know how to throw a punch, and maybe blood, get your fat lip bloody or nose, but doesn't really do any damage. You've had some training, right? You pull one of these moves that you saw Chuck do on Walker Texas Ranger one time, and you're kicking the guy's ass. He knows he's getting his ass kicked. So what? He escalates. He pulls a knife. Now the chances of him pulling a knife and saying, I'm going to cut you, I'm mad or whatever, probably not. If he's mad enough to pull a knife and you just popped him a couple of good ones, he's going to go right into the sewing machine, or he's going to go right into the Norman Bates. And your first defensive move against that is going to be with your bare hands, because you're not going to have time to deploy your own knife, or your firearm, or your pepper spray, or your baton, or whatever. These guys right here are what you're going to have to deal with. Okay, let's say you managed to do that. You get that sewing machine going, you managed to sidestep, push him away without getting cut too badly. Chances are you're going to get cut a little bit. That's just reality. But you're not disabled. You're still able to continue. You managed to push him away and get enough distance to either escape, which is preferable, if at all possible. Sometimes you can't. But in this instance, we're going to transition to your own weapon. Because continuing to go hand to hand, if you know anything about knives and martial arts, you know that there is absolutely no good way to go empty-handed against a man with a knife. There just isn't. Right? There are only ways that suck less than others. So you transition to your own weapon. But again, chances are, he's not going to say, ooh, he's got a knife out, I'm going to be more careful, I'm going to get into my fighting stance, and we're going to square off, and we're going to have a little duel. No, chances are, you're going to shove him away, and he's right back at you with the sewing machine, or the Norman bomb invades. Right? If you just popped him in the face a couple of times and give him a shot, he might not even see that you've deployed your knife. So it's not going to make him any more careful. He's going to come in fully committed to that attack. Right? So you've shoved him away and you've got your knife out. How are you standing? However you wound up standing, after you had that little altercation with the guy, you've thrown your punches, you punched him. Right? Now, you might wind up squared up with him again. You might wind up with your strong side forward when you're used to having your strong side back, or vice versa. But your problem, you're not going to be in that perfect knife fighting stance. So if he comes at you with a sewing machine and you do your thing, you make that block, you control the elbow, and you go in for whatever your counterattack is with your knife. Okay, if you've started from that combat crouch, right, and you've done your footwork, knife fighting is a lot of footwork. In that footwork, in the 20 or 30 seconds, in the minute tops, the knife fight is likely to take place in, your feet are going to be moving all over the place. Right? And you're going to be doing things that don't involve that stance. People get so fixated on those stances because they really ham them up in movies and TV. You know, you get all of these weird stances. All in this flourishing and stuff, and people get caught up in that because it looks cool. But it's how you move your feet, more than how you plant your feet, that's going to decide things. So practice out of all those stances. Practice out of no stance. Practice deploying and defending yourself and deploying your weapon from a seated position. What if you're pinned up against a wall? What if he's pushed you over a car hood and he's got his weight on you, holding you back on that car hood? Then what do you do? It's good to start in the stances, and those are a good foundation. But you can't count on being able to start every fight from whatever stance that you do when you practice, or you do at the dojo, or salon, or studio, or whatever it is that you train in your solo training or whatever. Your conditions aren't going to be ideal. Right? So you have to keep in mind safety and things like that when you're in the dojo. But you have to remember that the fight's not going to start on your terms. You're probably not going to be the one that starts it. You're not going to have the initiative. So fight from the way you're standing at the time. Right. Fight from no stance, fight from every stance. That's the way you have to practice. Okay, that's the end of this video for tonight. So, I am the Fighting Nerd and his co-host, Jolly Roger. Remember, draw your knives only in just purpose. Sheathe them only with honor. This is the Fighting Nerd, and I bid you good night.